Ordinary Average Guy Podcast Show. Hey everybody, it's the Ordinary Average Guy Podcast Show coming at you, previously recorded from the Buxty Hootie Studios, and you got your boy J-Kenn behind the mic. Oh yeah. First things for episode 29. Episode 29. Holy shit. Episode 29. Time flies when you're having fun. Time flies when you're having fun. And there is nothing more fun than me sitting down here in this basement talking to the tens and tens of you. I am home alone, and I swear to God somebody's walking around upstairs. But that is neither here nor there. First things first, I got to apologize. I got the podcast out here a little late. Missed my Tuesday morning deadline. I apologize for that. I had every intention in the world to get that out on time. Sunday, I was thinking to myself I should record my podcast. And then all of a sudden it was like, I got Monday to record the pod. That's why I call it the pod. Then all of a sudden Monday night rolls around and I'm putting my little kiddos to bed. And I'm laying there with my son, reading him a book in his bed. And we read a book. And then we said our prayers like good Christians do. And wouldn't you know it, 2-3 seconds later, I was out like a light. And I don't get it. I don't understand why I sleep so good in his bedroom. Because here's the reason why. It's not comfortable. It's a small little tiny bed. I'm scrunched up. He's in there. He's not really giving me a whole lot of room, so I got my ass up against the wall, and the pillow is not that great. It's okay, but it's not great. So I was thinking to myself, why am I falling asleep so easily up here all the time? And I think the reason is because it's, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's super cozy. It's super cozy. And if you would take a poll, if you had 100 of your finest Americans take a poll, and you said, can something be comfortable and cozy? Are they synonyms? I would say 100 out of 100 would say, well, yeah, they're synonyms. If you're comfortable, you're cozy. If you're cozy, you're comfortable. And I would disagree with that a little bit. I would say you can be comfortable without being cozy. I think you can be comfortable without being cozy. Like right now, this exact second, I'm on a couch in my basement. I'm comfortable. I got a little blanket here. I'm comfortable, but I'm not cozy. So I think you can be comfortable without being cozy, but never in a million years did I think that you can be cozy without being comfortable. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I never thought you could be cozy without being comfortable. And I came to the realization. Oh, Jesus Christ! Realization that you can in fact be cozy without being comfortable. My kid's bed is a prime example. It's just cozy up there. We got blankies and blankies and blankets, right? Little kids, they have their blankie, but then you also have a blanket. It's a bunk bed, so you have to climb up the ladder. So you're kind of like, you're kind of like stuck up there in a way, and there's something about being elevated, which has a coziness to it. Think, lofts. When you're up in a loft, that's cozy. Elevation equals cozy in my book. So when I'm cozy, I'm going to sleep, man. So that's what happened last night. So I apologize. I woke up, got out of there around, 11 o'clock or something. And I'm like, I'm sorry to the tens and tens of you, but I just can't do it. I can't come down here and do a pod. So I was like, I'm just going to put a message out there on the Facebook. Say, hey, fellas, you're going to have to wait one more day. I apologize, but you're going to have to wait one more day. But here we are on episode number 29. 30 is next week. That is crazy. I never would have thought we would have gotten that far. So I was thinking, what am I even going to talk about this week? Because we're kind of in a weird little area here where, last week we talked about, like St. Nick's Day. Before that we talked about Thanksgiving. Before that we talked about deer hunting. Next week, obviously, next week would the 24th would be Tuesday. So if I get my shit together, we would drop a podcast on Christmas Eve. So obviously we'll talk about Christmas. The week after is New Year's, which I'm really excited for that episode, the New Year's episode. So, but this week is kind of like, what the hell am I going to talk about? So the other day I was thinking, I'm driving down the road, right? And thinking, and I'm like, you guys ever think about like your favorite things in the whole wide world? Like your favorite things in the whole wide world? You ever do that? Like, my favorite singer is like Ariana Grande. You guys ever do that? Or my favorite food is flapjacks. You ever do that? I do. I do all the time. I'm like, my favorite, all this stuff, right? And I realized something. I realized that all my favorite, not all, but a good chunk of my favorite celebrities, if you will, in different categories, all come from one place. And that place is Canada. We always forget about you. You're to the north of us. And it's hard to think that there's a whole country up there. Canada. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This episode is a tip of the cap to Canada. So I don't know how long this episode's going to be because I don't really know how much I can talk about Canada. But I did a little bit of research, and I realized that there's actually quite a bit of people. I'm going to talk about people from Canada. And you guys can, and maybe you'll be like, holy shit, I didn't know they were from Canada. And just how, the idea here is that when the episode is done, you're going to think to yourself, wow, I did not know how cool Canada was. We're going to start off here with, like I say, this is a podcast for the women, right? This is a ladies' podcast. So we're going to talk about some hotties. We're talking about some hotties from Canada, baby. Number one on the list, if you're my age, 36, 37, or older, you know damn well who I'm going to start this list off with, baby. We're talking Pamela Anderson. Oh my God. Pamela Anderson. If you were around in the 90s, you know exactly who I'm talking about. Blonde bombshell. Auga. You guys remember Home Improvement? She's from Canada. She was on Home Improvement. She was the original. I forget what the hell her name was. I remember Heidi. From Home Improvement. She was Heidi before Heidi was, the helper on Tool Time. But anyway, she was on Baywatch. She, of course, she dated and was married to Tommy Lee. We've all seen that video. She was also married, I believe, to Kid Rock, if you can believe that. I think she also had a video with Bret Michaels from Poison, I believe. I don't look that stuff up. Interesting little tidbit. I was always a Pamela Anderson fan. But I would never scream it from mountaintops. I never, Pamela Anderson, blah, blah, blah. I never did that. But for some odd reason, in high school, a buddy of mine as like as a present or something, he gave me this old Playboy, and it was Pamela Anderson's issue, and he gave it to me, and I don't know where it is now. But but I mean, it was a little stiff, but he gave that to me, and I had good friends. In high school. Another interesting fact was I don't even know if I should be saying this, but I remember when I was a little kid. I don't know why, but I think I went like PamelaAnderson.com or something like that. And a little interesting fact about me: Pamela Anderson was the first ever naked woman that I saw on the internet. That's a little something, huh? How many people do you remember who the first naked person was that you saw on the internet? Probably not. I do. I remember I remember everything about it. I don't know. I looked it up. And all of a sudden, right on the home page, there she was, naked. And I remember I was on a computer at my grandma and grandpa's house. And I'm like, and I was a little kid too. So like back in the day, I was, like I felt bad about it. Now it's just another day, right? But back in the day, I felt bad about it, and I was trying to get off of it as soon as possible. And then I was all worried about, I must have been old enough where I knew about like the history, like where if you typed in a P, all of a sudden Pamela Anderson popped up, and that's the last thing I needed anybody seeing me looking up. But yeah, tip to the cap to Pamela Anderson. I saw her recently in an interview and something. She's not wearing makeup anymore. She's not the blonde bombshell anymore. She got older, of course, but she's doing this no makeup thing. And I'm not on here trying to sell makeup or anything, but she could maybe use some makeup. Next on the list, I didn't know this until a couple of days ago. I was home and I had Netflix on, and I saw this documentary, Shania Twain. Man, I feel like a woman. Down, 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 down. Right? Come on, girls, or whatever the hell it is. She's from Canada. And I'm telling you, there was not the hottest country female singer, my opinion, was Shania Twain. Easily. And they were interviewing her nowadays, and she's still gorgeous. Shania Twain, Canadian. Next on the list, if you're, again, if you're my age, 36, 37, higher up in the 30s, maybe low 40s, and if you watch you all know I'm a big pro wrestling guy. If you watch professional wrestling back in the day, we're talking Trish Stratus. Oh, Trish Stratus, man. Came on the scene as a manager in the WWF. And then she wrestled, of course. She's a WWE Hall of Famer, I believe. But she came back recently for a run, and she's still beautiful and still great wrestling. She's big into yoga. And so I got to get some of those yoga DVDs, if you know what I mean. Trish Stratus. No, there was a bunch of other ladies on the list that I didn't really know who the hell they were. But there was one on the list that I'm gonna mention because I know a lot of guys think she's beautiful, and even women, like, oh, she's so pretty. I'm not gonna lie to you. Unordinary opinion, everybody. Unordinary opinion. Rachel McAdams. I don't know. She just doesn't do it for me, man. I don't know what it. I don't. I hate to be that guy, man. But I just. She's the girl from The Notebook. She's from The Wedding Singer. She's from a bunch of other like those stupid lovey-dovey movies. Where they're like, oh my god. She's in those movies. And but I know a lot of people out there think she's the greatest or whatever, so I threw her on the list. But I don't know. She doesn't do it for me. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, speaking of The Notebook, now we're going to transition into the hunks. To the hunk. Hey, this is a podcast where we talk about the beauties. We also talk about the hunks. All right. I'm comfortable with my sexuality. I'll talk about the hunks. I don't give a shit. Speaking of The Notebook, Ryan Gosling from Canada. Did you know that? Did you know that he was from Canada? He kind of had a resurgence here recently with what was it, like 10? Oh, did you guys? Okay. The Fall Guy. Emily Blunt, she is my Hollywood actress crush, if you will. And my wife knows that. I've she knows that. I've said it. I said, hey, just so you know, if Emily Blunt's moving in next door, I'm gonna help her cut her grass. We kid in the J-Kenn household. We kid. But Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in The Fall Guy, I think it's on Peacock. I thought it was a cool movie. I think it got some bad ratings, Rotten Tomatoes, dude, I'm telling you right now, if Rotten Tomatoes gives a movie a low score, watch the movie. Because Rotten Tomatoes barely gets it right, in my opinion. That was a good movie. So he has kind of like a resurgence because Ryan Gosling was in Remember the Titans, if I remember correctly, no pun intended. And then he did, The Notebook. And then I don't ever remember him. But I went down a Ryan Gosling little fanboy phase where he was in like a lot of independent movies, and I watched a lot of those. And I thought he was good in them. He's a good actor. But then, like I say, a couple of years back when he had, what was that movie, Crazy Stupid Love? It was like with Steve Carell, Julianne Moore, I believe is her name, and then Emma Stone, I think, was in it. He had that movie, and then he had, kind of had a resurgence. But yeah, Ryan Gosling, Canadian. Next on the list, another Ryan, and he's big right now. He's big for a while. Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is also a Canadian. I've not seen. I've seen the. Tell me, okay. I've not seen the Deadpool versus Wolverine movie. I feel like I should, because it does look like it might be, funny and all that, and a good movie. But I saw Deadpool 2. I did not like it. I didn't like it. I just didn't get what was going on there. I think like he died or whatever, and they came back to life. I don't know. I didn't really follow that one that well. But Ryan Reynolds is also a fellow Canadian and a man who I look up to as a someone to be like, because he seems like, out of all the Hollywood actors, right? They're all like weird, right? They're all losers, right? They're not losers, but he seems like the most down to earth person from what I can tell from him when he's acting in his Mint Mobile commercials. Those Mint commercials, he owns this Mint Mobile, funny commercials. And if you can get me to pay attention to a commercial without pressing the skip button, you're doing something right. Next on the list, again, unordinary opinion, I don't really think he's that funny or great at all. But Seth Rogen is from Canada. I feel like I should, I feel like if I didn't mention Seth Rogen, people would be like, hey, you didn't mention Seth Rogen. And it's like, I don't get the Seth Rogen comment. I guess because I'm not like a pothead stoner. I'm not a pothead stoner. And I feel like you got to be a pothead stoner maybe to appreciate him. But I'm not real sure. But the next guy on the list, I remember watching a lot of, because he was in the movie Speed. Now, if you have not seen the movie Speed, I believe that movie Speed was from the early 90s for sure. 1994, I believe. But Keanu, I don't know, Reeves, another fellow Canadian. And now that guy I know for a fact is a cool dude. That guy I know for a fact. I've read some stuff about him, and it sounds like he does a lot of good for everybody. Donates a lot of money. He's kind of under the radar. He just seems like a really good person. Look into Keanu Reeves. He's a good man. He's a good man. And if you haven't seen the movie Speed, Sandra Bullock's in that movie too, and she's looking good, man. Remember I had a big crush on her when I was a little kid. All because of that movie Speed. It's about a bus with a bomb on it. I'm not giving anything away, but there's this bomb on this bus, right? And it's called Speed because they got speed. They can't, if the bus goes below 55 miles an hour or something like that, the bus blows up. They don't make movies like that anymore, do they? Well, anyway, so they're all on this bus, right? And Sandra Bullock, she's driving this bus, and Keanu Reeves is like a cop or whatever. Jeff Daniels is in the movie as well. Not Canadian, but he's from Michigan. Close. But anyway, Speed, man, cool movie. Keanu Reeves, dude. He's a cool guy in that flick. I'm just telling you how it is. Okay, just telling you how it is. Telling you the truth here. Another guy, and hey, with the exception of Seth Rogen, these guys are hunks. I'm telling you, there's something in the water in Canada, man. They only make attractive people. It's all I'm going to tell. I don't know what it is about Canada's water, but they make attractive people. The next guy on the list, that I figured was good enough to talk about. Maybe nothing to look at right now, but back in the day, William Shatner. Look up some old William Shatner pictures from Star Trek. Good looking guy. Very good looking guy. William Shatner. And he's old. He's an old man now. So there's again that Canadian water. It makes you look good, but it also makes you live longer. That's a fact. That's a fact. Well, I shouldn't say that because the next guy on the list is Michael J. Fox. That's not funny. Michael J. Fox. Also from Canada. He's a Canadian. Michael J. Fox, obviously he was in Spin City TV show. I think he was a part of the Brat Pack. I'm not sure. But one thing I know about Michael J. Fox, man, is he's in Back to the Future. And my little guy, MJ, because he's an old soul, loves the Back to the Future movies. He loves them. And sure enough, Marty McFly, man. Michael J. Fox, a Canadian. Will Arnett, not a bad looking guy. Will Arnett, man, if there is one person that I could have their voice, it'd be Will Arnett. If I could have somebody's voice, there's a couple people on that list. It'd be a tough choice, but Will Arnett is on the list. He is on the list. There's something about his voice that I don't know. I feel like he's definitely seduced a lot of women with that voice. I feel like he has. I hope he has. I would be very sad if he has not. The last guy on the list that I thought was Michael. Speaking of Will Arnett, Michael Cera is also on from Canada. Again, I don't. I didn't even have him on the list, but I remember he was from there, and I figure I should tell you that. But just be similar to Seth Rogen, I don't need emails like, hey, you forgot about Michael Cera, dude. But he's also from Canada, kind of a goofball though. He's not drinking the Canadian water, I feel like. Last guy on the list though is Matthew Perry. R.I.P. man. R.I.P. Matthew Perry. My wife's a big Friends fan. I remember my mom, I think she watched Friends back in the day. Every girl I dated, there's something about Friends. It was like the women's Seinfeld, I feel like. Every girl I ever dated was into Friends, and my wife included. She loves Friends. And so I never watched Friends, right? Because I was that's a girl show, I'm not going to watch some girl show, But I have recently watched more and more Friends, and I will say I missed out because that is a funny show. It's a really funny show. And Matthew Perry on that show as Chandler, which is the weirdest name ever, he was hilarious, and he kind of reminds me of me a little bit, a little bit, just kind of with the quick wit. Sometimes I have quick wit. Funny. Joey on the show was probably the funniest. But he had like but Chandler was how do I explain it? Like Joey was funny because he was dumb. Whereas Chandler was funny, like that took it was like really like good writing. Like Dumb and the movie Dumb and Dumber, also with Jeff Daniels from Michigan, kind of Canada. it's called Dumb and Dumber because they do a bunch of dumb stuff. But actually, I've always said this. It's actually like the Farrelly brothers who wrote that movie are actually really smart to write what they did. So even though it's Dumb and Dumber and these people are doing dumb stuff, like the jokes are actually really, really witty. And that's what I feel like Chandler was. Anyway, Matthew Perry also, he was a good looking guy. He was a good looking guy. I mean, depending on where he was with his because he went, there'd be some seasons where, he's not that good looking there. He looks kind of, overweight and kind of, But then, the younger Chandler, I always saw was a, good looking guy. So, yeah, Chandler, Matthew Perry, also Canadian. We're going to stick with, now we're going to get into now the last three categories are, and don't worry, they're not going to take that long. Well, maybe this next one will. Are comedians. I'm going to be honest with you. When I read this list, Canada might have in that water that they're drinking. Not only does it give you youth and a long life and good looks, but it also gives you an amazing sense of humor. An amazing sense of humor. So right now we have my favorite Playboy bunny was Pamela Anderson. Right now, as we speak, right now, my favorite guy in Hollywood, if you will, I'm gonna go with Ryan Reynolds. Maybe Ryan Gosling. It's a toss up. I like them both. My favorite comedian of all time. It's tough to say that, but I think he is. He's so funny. Is the great late. So there's that Canada water thing's kind of throwing a wrench in there. But he's Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald, SNL. He was in movies. He had a movie called Dirty Work, which you probably never heard of, but it's funny. Norm Macdonald, I'm telling you right now, go on the computer, go on YouTube and type in Norm Macdonald, and you will possibly go down one of the biggest wormholes, or whatever they call it, rabbit holes, whatever they call it, that you've ever gone down. Norm Macdonald, especially his interviews on Conan O'Brien and David, any of those late night shows, but specifically Conan, they're the best. He is, when I think of like, if I were still doing stand up, that is the kind of comedian that I would want to be like. That is who I'd want to emulate. And back when I did stand up, I didn't really know much. The unfortunate thing for me was I never really, this is going to sound kind of dumb. You're going to think to yourself, how did you not know this? But, and maybe I did know it, but I never really looked at Norm Macdonald as a stand-up comedian. I just never did. Or maybe I didn't realize it or know it. Because to me, he was always like the guy that was on SNL, and he was the guy, he was in movies and stuff. To me, he was more of like an Adam Sandler or David, kind of person where they're comedic actors, if you will. I guess I just never really thought of him as a stand-up comedian. But then when he passed, I went down the rabbit hole, and his stand-up is second to none. I know a lot of, Bill Burr. Love Bill Burr. Shane Gillis is hot right now. Love the guy. Hilarious. Norm Macdonald is Jerry Seinfeld. Obviously, I like Jerry Seinfeld. I'm a huge Seinfeld guy. Norm Macdonald, he was the best. He's the only guy that could bomb, if you will, and still be like well, not the only guy, but he could like bomb and it would still be hilarious just because of how he did it. And sometimes what was really funny about him is like there's times where he bombs on purpose just because he knows the joke is. When you do stand-up comedy, the thing about stand-up is you can have a really funny bit, right? Or a funny joke, but it's got to be in the right room. Like the room, the crowd, I mean, everything's got to be right. Like you can have funny stuff, but if the crowd's not really that great, or depending on the location, I've done stand-up in like in the corner of a bar. That's not a great location. Like there's so many factors that go into stand-up comedy that make it, makes it good. Like I hear stories about other comedians, who are still, that did it and stuck with it. I mean, they were doing comedy in cafeterias during the lunch hour in colleges. I mean, you can have the funniest jokes in the world, but if the atmosphere isn't good, it is, it's a lot harder to kill, So kill in a good way. What I'm getting at is that Norm Macdonald would have jokes that, I don't know, I guess I don't know where I'm going with that. Norm Macdonald would have jokes that he just were funny, but he knew the crowd wasn't going to get. Oh, that's where I'm going with it. So, he would have a joke that he just knew the crowd wasn't going to get it, and he's like, screw it. It's a good joke. I'm doing it anyway. And he had the balls to do that. And a lot of those great comedians, that's the biggest thing, is they have the balls to do it. They have the balls to do something, and that's something I lacked. I lacked the balls, so that's why I'm not really I don't do it anymore. But anyway, that's the guy that I look up to, Norm Macdonald. He was go down a Norm Macdonald rabbit hole, and you will thank me for that. Next on the list, Phil Hartman, another SNL alum. Phil Hartman in the 90s. He's from Canada. Phil Hartman, I don't know. I was kind of surprised. I guess I never knew he was from Canada, but he was obviously a guy that, he's like a household name kind of. And even though he was a little bit before my time, like as, I was a kid, and he passed away. He got murdered by his wife. Look that up. He got murdered by his wife. But anyway, Phil Hartman from Canada. He's got this scene. So there's this movie that I watched. Oh, I'll hold on. I'll get to that in a little bit. Next guy on the list. When I was a kid, I watched this movie called The Naked Gun. Okay? Naked Gun. And then as I got older, I watched this movie called Airplane. In that movie, there was a guy named Leslie Nielsen. Okay? Leslie Nielsen. Now, when it comes to, I would call it deadpan comedy. Deadpan comedy would be the term. Leslie Nielsen might be the best at it. Like there's this, like the famous line in Airplane, where it's like, surely you can't be serious, and Leslie Nielsen goes, very, he goes, I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. That's a perfect example. There's in The Naked Gun, he's this detective. Okay, he's like this detective, and somebody died or whatever, and somebody came up to him, and he's like asking him all these questions, like height of the body kind of thing, and he's like 6 foot, and ethnicity, white, and then the guy goes sex, as in male or female. He goes sex, and Leslie Nielsen goes, not right now, Bob, but maybe later. It's shit. I don't know, deadpan or dumb humor. I don't know, but he was awesome at it. And he's an old man in those movies, and it's still so funny. Airplane is the obvious one, but go back and watch the Naked Gun movies. Oh, they're fantastic. Next on the list, Rick Moranis. Now you might be asking yourself, who the hell is Rick Moranis? Now Rick Moranis was real big in the 80s and the 90s. His wife passed away, so he quit acting and raised his family and never came back. But he had the world by the balls, man. He was, I think, probably the last movie he was in, and we've been watching a lot of it with my kids, is The Flintstones. I think that was in 94 or something like that. The Flintstones with John Goodman. Rick Moranis is in there as Barney Rubble. Rosie O'Donnell's in that movie. Who's Wilma? She's a babe too. I can't remember her name. But the Flintstones, Rick Moranis was in that. He was in, if you're my age, you remember watching The Little Giants, right? The Little Giants. You remember that movie? He was the coach for the Little Giants. He was the main character, if you will, in that movie. But he was also, and then just to try to speed this up a little bit, he was also in the Ghostbuster movies. He was the accountant, the neighbor accountant in the Ghostbuster movies. Rick Moranis. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. If you're my age, you obviously know Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Rick Moranis. The next two people, Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy. Now, the reason I'm lumping them together is because you probably maybe have heard of the show Schitt's Creek, Canadian TV show. If you haven't seen it, put it on your list. That show is that is just a good old fashioned sitcom. That is a good old-fashioned sitcom. Hilarious show. Hilarious show and hilarious premise. But anyway, Eugene Levy is in that with Catherine O'Hara. She is also the mom in Home Alone. So you all know who I'm talking about. Eugene Levy was the dad in the American Pie franchise, the guy with the big bushy eyebrows. Those two, there's also a movie out called The Best in Show. I think it's called The Best in Show. And that is a movie, if you like comedy, The Best in 2000, the best, it's just called Best in Show. Is it? Yeah. Eugene Levy, Fred Willard, Catherine O'Hara, John Michael Higgins. That you might not know the name, but you definitely know who I'm talking about. Michael McKean. He's the older brother to Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul. If you ever seen the movie, this is Spinal Tap. Michael McKean, he's in Spinal Tap. Another SNL alum. But the Best in Show, it's like a documentary about these guys that show their dogs in these dog pageants. And they're both in that movie. Next on the list, Martin Short. Martin Short is... So, again, I was maybe late to the game with Martin Short, right? I knew who Martin Short was. I've seen the Three Amigos. Chevy Chase, Martin Short, and Steve Martin. Yeah, Steve Martin. from the 80s. Yeah, it's an old, that's like my wife. She's like, I don't want to some old movie, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, the old movies are the best. The Three Amigos is hilarious, and Martin Short's in that movie, right? Um, well, okay, so I went on my life. I didn't really look into Martin Short that much, but the show Only Murders in the Building, right? Martin Short, Steve Martin, and oh god damn it, what's that chick's name? Selena Gomez. They're in this show. If you got Hulu, check out Only Murders in the Building. Martin Short, dude, is hilarious on this show. So then I started watching stuff with Martin Short, and the guy is hilarious. The guy is hilarious. He is a legend. He is a legend. Martin Short, Canadian. The next guy on the list, if you like the 80s and you like John Hughes movies, man, we're talking John Candy. John Candy. Also in Home Alone. I mean, but he's in my favorite movie of all time, The Great Outdoors, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. John Candy, man, was the best. He was so funny. And he passed away in 1990. He died young too, actually. So there goes my theory on Canadian water, I guess. But he passed away young too. He is obviously a big man. But John Candy was just so goddamn funny, and he's obviously in the movies that I just mentioned. But he's also in a movie that maybe you haven't heard of that is really, really, really funny. The movie is called Who's Harry Crumb? Who's Harry Crumb? It's an old movie again, yeah. But it is hilarious, and he is hilarious in it. He's this what do you call it, like a private eye or something like that, or private detective, and he's really bad at it, but kind of like weirdly good at it. It's just so funny. It's just hilarious. Anyway, it's called Who's Harry Crumb? Check that movie out. Next guy on the list, Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, they're both in The Great Outdoors, man. They're both in The Great Outdoors. Dan Aykroyd's also obviously in the Ghostbuster movies. So a lot of these guys have SNL backgrounds, but another thing is, if you research these guys, they all SCTV was a big show in Canada, and worked its way into America. But Second City Television, so we all heard of Second City. It's in Chicago, but they also have a hub in Toronto. I think they have one other one, but they have one in Toronto. So a lot of these people, like Rick Moranis, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, John Candy, Dan Aykroyd. I'm not sure about Martin Short, but they all came from this SCTV. So again, just the comedy that came out of Canada is fantastic. Next guy on the list, Mike Myers. Just think what this world would be like if we didn't have Mike Myers. If we didn't have Wayne's World. If we didn't have Austin Powers. Man, he was killing it in the 90s, dude. Mike Myers was killing it, SNL alum. But he was in this movie called, and I watched it with my wife, so I'm going to tell you right now, she didn't like it. She didn't like it. I like it. It's called So I Married an Axe Murderer. That's the name of the movie. And it's about Mike Myers, and he's dating this girl. What's her name? She was a babe too, back in the day. She's the mom on that the most recent Tim Allen show, Last Man Standing, and she still looked good. But anyway, so he married. He's dating this chick, and he thinks that she's an ex. Oh, Nancy Travis. Anyway, so he's dating this girl, and he thinks she's a mass murderer. Anyway, but he's like, you know what? I'm not. He's like really scared about commitment and stuff. He's like, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna marry her anyway, and they marry, and it's all funny. Phil Hartman, who I talked about before, has a cameo in that movie. And it's just one of the funniest scenes where he's a tour guide at Alcatraz. So that's another movie that you should check out. So I Married an Axe Murderer. So we got So I Married an Axe Murderer, Who's Harry Crumb, Best in Show. Those are 3 movies that you probably maybe haven't heard of that you should check out. Last guy on the list, somebody that I watched a lot of in my life. We're talking Jim Carrey. Another Canadian. Jim Carrey, Dumb and Dumber. I was talking about Dumb and Dumber before. That was like his breakout role. And then, of course, he got into Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. Ladies and gentlemen, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls was my favorite movie when I was a kid. Should I have been watching it? Probably not. But it was my favorite movie. As a matter of fact, I wanted to be just like Ace Ventura. I would do my hair like Ace Ventura. I got a goddamn parakeet. One of the reasons is because Ace Ventura had a parakeet. So I got a pet parakeet. And I would put seeds in my belly button and have the bird eat the seeds out of my belly button. Because Ace Ventura did it. Ace Ventura always wore a tank top, and I didn't have a tank top, but I had a really nice white turtleneck. So I cut that fucker up and I made a tank top. There weren't too many people who were happy with me on that one, but Jim Carrey, man, from Canada. I mean, look at this list of people from Canada. It's astonishing. And the point of this is that Canada is just this big chunk of ice on top of us. I never really think too much about it, but ladies and gentlemen, Canada's pumping out people left and right. Without these people, my life is not as you know it is. So I owe a lot to Canada. Now we're talking music. Obviously, near and dear to my heart is I'm a big music guy. And I was looking at the bands here, and I wrote down some of these aren't my favorite bands, but I was just kind of, well, I'm not a Nickelback fan. Nothing against Nickelback. I kind of grew out of that whole hatred of Nickelback. I appreciate Nickelback now. I kind of outgrew that. But they're from Canada, and I remember a funny story about it. If you have a drunk driving, you can't go to Canada. If you have a drunk driving in America, you can't go to Canada. I remember Chad Kroeger, the lead singer of Nickelback, I think he had, drunk driving or something, and he couldn't, go back home. And I just remember hearing that story once upon a time. But Nickelback's from Canada. But now we're going to talk about the ones that I like. Neil Young. Neil Young is in my top 5 favorite artists of all time. Neil Young. Without Neil Young, without Neil Young, I could debate that grunge music, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana, grunge might not exist. They call him the godfather of grunge, Neil Young. That dirty guitar. But then he also does the folksy stuff too, just the acoustic. Neil Young is the man. He is the man, and he's, like I say, he's in my top 5. Neil Young from Canada. Some other bands here, not necessarily my favorites, but they're good, and I listen to them. Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf is from Canada. Sum 41. Sum 41 is from Canada. No, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a big Sum 41 fan. I don't mind them, but they do sing. They sing legitimately one of my favorite songs of all time. The song is called Fat Lip. Fat Lip by Sum 41. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up, and you're going to be like, oh, yeah, dude, I heard that song. Of course I heard that song. Sum 41 from Canada. Arcade Fire. Arcade Fire's, like, I guess they're like an indie rock band or whatever like that. You might not, you would hear them maybe a little bit on like the independent radio stations, something like that, like a 96.9. If you're in Northeast Wisconsin, you hear them like on a 96.9 or a 104.3. Maybe not anymore. I haven't really heard a lot about them recently, but they have a couple songs that, they have like 3 songs that I'm really into. Then they might have more. I just haven't heard about them. Bachman Turner Overdrive BTO. What's funny about that band is they have this song called Taking Care of Business Every Day. Taking care of business and working. All right. That's a song. We all heard that song. Well, when I was a little kid, I shit you not, I could have swore that the lyrics to that song were taking care of biscuits. That's what I thought the lyrics were. And I would go around singing, taking care of biscuits. And to this day, people in my family are still like, taking care of biscuits. Or if that song's on the radio, they'll send me like, I don't have, I took Snapchat off my phone, but they'll, they used to send me Snapchat. So like, taking care of biscuits. And my mom, I remember I was in the bathtub one time, taking a bath. I was a little kid. I wasn't like 20 or anything. I was like 17. I was a little kid, and my mom got me on video camera, like singing that song. I wonder if she still has that. But I was singing like taking care of biscuits. The Guess Who. No sugar tonight, no coffee. No sugar tonight, no tea. Da da do da 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 do da 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 do da da. That song, you know that song? You know that song? That's the Guess Who, another band from Canada. A band in the 90s that you might not be familiar with, but you might also be familiar. It's called Our Lady Peace. They were maybe like a post-grunge band, if you will. But definitely, if you haven't looked up Our Lady Peace, the guy's voice is astonishing. The guy's voice is amazing. And they have some really cool tunes, I think. The first song you should look up, because you'll be like, oh yeah, I know that song. It's called Superman's Dead. That's the name of the song. Doesn't anybody ever know that the world's a subway, yeah. It's a cool tune. I don't do it justice. Awesome song by a band called Our Lady Peace. Blow them up. They deserve it. They have great tunes. Second last guy I'm going to talk about from Canada, band, I got to give a shout out to Gordon Lightfoot, perhaps one of the greatest songwriters of all time. Passed away. So, what are you going to do? But he was also old as dirt. He sings this song called, he sings a lot of songs, but 2 of them I'm going to talk about real quickly. One is Sundown. The song is called Sundown. And if you listen to it, you'll be like, oh, maybe I heard that. If you listen to like the classic rock stations, you're going to be like, yeah, I've heard that song. But the other song, ladies and gentlemen, the other song that he sings is my 6-year-old son's favorite song. Like right now, his favorite song of all time right now. He's always asking Alexa to play it. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Can you believe that is my son's favorite song of all time? The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Which is a great song. It's a great song, but he's also 6. So I don't know what to tell you. Last on the list, they're kind of like tied with Pearl Jam for my favorite band of all time. It depends what kind of mood I'm in, but Rush. 3 guys. Alex Lifeson on guitar, Neil Peart on drums. He passed away. Geddy Lee on he's singing. He's on the bass, and then he also plays the keyboards. 3 guys. All right. If you don't like Rush, I get it, because some of their stuff's a little like long or very, instrumental-ish. Or maybe you just don't like rock music, which whatever, it's, whatever. But they are, when it comes to, dude, I would debate anybody when it comes to musicians, like the most talented band ever. I'm throwing Rush's name in the hat. What they do with 3 guys is unreal. It's unreal, and I'm in the Rush, man. I'm into Rush from Canada. So we're talking Rush. We're talking Neil Young. He's in my top 5. We're talking all these comedians that are, a lot of them definitely top 5. Jim Carrey as a comedic actor. Norm Macdonald as a stand-up. We're talking actors. We're talking Playboy bunnies. They're all from Canada, man. They're all from Canada. And then, last but not least, my favorite. You think I was going to end this show without talking about wrestling? Nah. My favorite wrestler of all time. The excellence of execution. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Bret the Hitman Hart. Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Bret Hart. If I don't want to talk your ear off about wrestling, but if you're into wrestling and maybe you're newer into wrestling, go back and watch some Bret Hart matches. They're the best. They're the best. He was the face of the WWF in the 90s. After Hulk Hogan left, Bret Hart was the face of the WWF. And he was just a huge all over the place. And the best, I think, the loudest crowd I ever heard in my life on wrestling television was the Calgary Stampede. So it was a pay-per-view in Calgary. It was the Hart Foundation versus, so it's like 5 guys versus 5 guys. Stone Cold was on that team. Undertaker, I think, was on that team. But anyway, that crowd was wild. They were wild. If you're into wrestling, I know you're not all into wrestling, but if you are, and you have the Peacock channel, look that up and watch that match. That crowd, and tell me where you hear a louder crowd for the length of time. It's nuts. That was the coolest thing when Bret Hart turned heel. We call it heel, bad guy. He was like bashing America. Now this is before 9/11, so this, he was bashing America, but he was Canadian and he was bashing America. So when he would go to America, everyone would boo him. Yeah, boo him. And he was bashing America, so we booed the shit out of him. Or not me. It was kind of tough. It was tough because I also like Stone Cold. But then when he went to Canada, it all flipped, and he was the good guy. And that I don't think you ever seen in wrestling before, where you're the bad guy in a certain area, and then you go to a different area or different country, and now you're the good guy, and they totally flips the script. It was really awesome. It was like it was in like 97. So if you're into wrestling, check that out, man, because that was That was fantastic. The last thing I'm going to talk about Canada is that I love about Canada. I don't know what the hell Boxing Day is. I don't know what it is, but they celebrate it and we don't. And I wish we did celebrate it. I do believe they get a day off of work. So, I mean, I don't know why we're not celebrating it, but we definitely should be, if you ask me. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is my and that went, holy shit, that went a lot longer than I thought it would. Apologize about that. Hopefully, you guys liked it. Me talking about people from Canada for an hour. But let's get into our emails, if you will. So we have a couple of emails. The first one is from a dear friend of the show, Beth. And this one is for Casadilla. She was on the show last week. Hey, Casadilla. Thanks for the tip on the Cedar Crest ice cream. I've been looking for good ice cream ever since we moved away from the Big Cow in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. This podcast has done so much for women. Keep up the good work. Yours truly, Beth. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I didn't think that this podcast was going to be such a wonderful podcast for, so empowering to women, but it is. But it is. Thanks for the email, Beth, and thanks for Castilla to share your input on where you can get some good Cedar Crest ice cream in the Valley in the Appleton area. The next email is Random Thoughts by the Dortster. She says, here, hold on one second here. I just want to make sure I don't goof this up. Okay, here we go. She says, I have always wanted to be a person who called soda pop. That's funny. We did an episode a while back called Envy. And it was like things that you're envious of people about, but they're not like the normal things. Like for example, I was watching something with Harrison Ford the other day, and he has a scar on his face. Under his lip, he's got this scar, and it's a cool looking scar. And I was like envious of his scar. Like, who the hell would be envious of a scar on your face? But I was. His particular, like in that particular spot, it looked cool. Like she's saying, it's funny. So like she's envious of people who call soda pop. Now I did an episode about this, about how soda is soda. But Dortster's saying here, I have always wanted to be a person who called soda pop. I just think it sounds so cool. But aunts all the way. However, I do find myself saying aunt now that I'm living in the Fox Cities. Boo. Exactly. I'm not doing the aunt thing. I'm sticking with aunt. If you don't know what I'm talking about, a couple episodes back, we talk about aunt. It's not aunt, it's aunt. An unpopular opinion, maybe breakfast for dinner is better than breakfast for breakfast. Interesting. There is something to say about that, because breakfast for dinner is like a lot of fun. It's like, what are we having for dinner? Scrambled eggs. What? We're having what? Pancakes and sausage for dinner? Oh, that you're absolutely right. It's just like a fun thing. I like eating cereal once in a while I don't eat a lot of cereal now because I'm cutting back on the added sugar. But like that was always a thing. Like if it was like the kids ate, like if it was like a weird situation, I'd eat cereal, and I loved it. She has a question. What are your 5 to 10 most recent Google searches, non-dirty, and or what has probably been one of the weirdest things you have ever Googled? Non-dirty, she says. Well, that's good that you put that in there, because, my Google searches, Oh shit, man! I wasn't ready for that question. Here, I'll tell you here. So if I go to Google and I go to my name here, how do I do this here? My Google searches suck. They're like addresses and stuff. Here, I'm gonna tell you my wife's. I'm gonna tell you about my wife's. This is this is when you're a parent. These are the Google searches that come up. Dehydrating oranges in oven temperature. The second one is dehydrate oranges in an air fryer. Third one, how to dehydrate oranges in the oven. The next one is Blue Harbor Resort. We're going there next week. Can't wait. The next one is December blank calendar. The next one is Instant Pot Air Fryer. The next one is Can Kids Wear Puddle Jumpers at Blue Harbor Resort? And then the last one is Groupon. So I was hoping we would have something more exciting there, but when you're an adult, there's really nothing too exciting about that at all. She's like, ask other people to send in theirs. Oh yeah, sure. Oh, beautiful. So anyway, what we're doing here is the email, right? So I have an email, J-Kenn, OAG@outlook.com. J-Kenn, OAG@outlook.com. I also have on the Facebook, you can find me at the Ordinary Average Guy Podcast Show. And you can send a message that way. But yes, that's a perfect question. Check your Google and send in what your most recent 5 to 10 Google searches were. That would be a really fun thing to see. Here is the Dortzers. Here's mine. The lamp looks weird, meaning. The lamp looks weird, meaning. Never heard of the lamp looks weird, but that must mean something. She was trying to figure that out. The last one is, I don't even know this word. What is parquet flooring? It's Parquet, parquet flooring. I don't know. Yeah, okay. What is it? The next one is, why does restless leg syndrome seem to be worst in a vehicle? This is funny. When you look at your Google search, it's like the shit that you, why does restless leg syndrome seem to be the worst in a vehicle? The next one is Copycat Cliff Kidsy Iced Oatmeal Cookie Bar Recipe. Oh, you're going to make some of those at home and you're going to just make it yourself, I see. And then the last one she has here is Cursive B. Oh, so no one writes cursive anymore, and you're right. A B. If you held a gun to my head right now, if you held a gun to my head right now, I could not write a cursive B. I couldn't do it. I would not know how. I would have to Google as well. I have no idea. My son, MJ, again, he's just like into cursive, which is weird because I don't have to teach it at school, but he just loves cursive. He wants to know how to write cursive. I don't know. Thanks for making my Tuesdays a bit brighter. Sincerely, Dorster. Well, thank you so much for that email. I'm glad I could help. I'm sorry I missed this morning or Tuesday morning, but yes. Thank you for sending that little note there. That was nice. We have another new email here from Balzac. All right. So here we go. Good morning. Balzac here. I have a couple of questions for you. First, what would it take to be a weekly sponsor? Oh, here we go. Now we're talking. And would you do ad reads if properly compensated? Number 2 is more of a comment rather than a question, but I really enjoy your guests and the different point of views they share. I really enjoy the podcast weekly, and it helps me get through the work week. Keep up the good work. You're tens of tens, Balzac. Well, dude, that's 2 in a row. Really nice emails. You're welcome, guys. I mean, I'm just doing this to be an idiot. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode because it was just me talking about Canada, but so it's probably not gonna be one of my better ones. But thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it. I'm glad you do enjoy it. Your first question there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not above sponsors. Definitely not. I would. I think that'd be cool. So here's the thing about a sponsor. Like, if you start getting money involved, it's like, okay, I don't even know how to do it. I'll be honest with you. Would I do it? Yeah, why not? I guess I would for sure. Make a little extra cash. Thing is I did some research on that, and I don't even know what I would charge. I have no idea how that works at all. Would I do it though? I guess so. Thing is if I do it, then it's like, okay, well, and it's like now it's starting to become a job. But the thing is, if I want this thing to get big, that's something I would have to consider is doing sponsorships. But I don't know. Yeah, if you want to Balzac, if you want me to sponsor something, let me know. That'd be fun. It could be fun anyway. I would definitely have to consider it. So let's jump over to Facebook and see if I have any messages. And sure shit, I do have messages. We got a message here from Olaf. Olaf, that's a nice name. J-Kenn, I have heard you say several times that your goal for the podcast is to reach 52 episodes. I would suggest you adjust that to 54 episodes, which is 2 times your favorite number, 27. Oh, just a thought. Keep on being an average, ordinary guy. Well, thank you very much for sending in the email. That's a good idea. Do 54 episodes. That's a good idea. I did think about that too, whereas like I wanted to do 52 episodes, maybe 54 now. But I did take a little break off. And, I took a break like a month, right? I just took a break and then I've been pretty consistent now, and I'm thinking maybe I would be interested to do like 52 or 54 episodes in a week, like in a row. So that would, so I don't know. We'll see. But that's a goal. This podcast it's fun to do, but at the same time, like Christ, I've been doing this now for an hour and 17 minutes, and then I don't edit it really, but I've learned some tricks to kind of screw with things, and I got to upload it and write a description. I mean, it's not like it's time consuming or anything, but then I got to kind of come up with shit to talk about. So, but it is fun. But yeah, I just want to see like where, if I can get more people to listen. So that'd be a thing. Like if I can get more people to listen, that would be motivation for me. But getting those emails with people are like, hey, we look, even if it's 2 people, that's awesome. Like I said, there's only 10 of you. So I appreciate you guys listening, and I'm glad the podcast gives you a little bit of cheer in in those shitty ass world that we live in. Next on the list, baby, we're talking Unordinary Opinion, and I'm going to go this week. I saw Monday Night Football. No, not Monday Night. Sunday night. That's why I didn't record the podcast Sunday night, because I was watching the Packers kick the shit out of the Seattle Seahawks. And it was on NBC. Chris Collinsworth was on the call, right? Chris Collinsworth. And for my whole life, I feel like I've always hear people shitting on Chris Collinsworth. Chris, everyone, like, I never really heard anyone say anything good about Chris Collinsworth. I'm going to go on record right now and say I really like Chris Collinsworth. I think he's really good. I really enjoy listening to him do a football game because I don't, I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to sports. Like I know enough to be dangerous, but I'm not like a hardcore, I don't spend my time playing Madden on the Pretendo, so it's like I don't know all the ins and outs, but like, so when I watch a game, I want to be educated. Tony Romo also does a great job educating me personally. Chris Collinsworth is another guy. I really think he's great, and I think people should stop shitting on him so much because I think he's really good personally. So that's my own ordinary opinion. Chris Collinsworth, I don't know. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. Send me an email like, dude, what are you talking about? That's a very ordinary opinion. I don't know. I just feel like people are always ripping on him, and I did early on because I was like, oh, I guess no one likes this guy, so I'm not going to like him either. Then I realized I don't know why I'm doing that because I think he's really good. Like he did this thing where we punted the ball, and he did like this whole analysis on how he punted the ball and how it went off the side of his foot and it had a nice spin to it that had was twirling and it was coming down all weird and it was hard to catch, and the guy did have a hard time catching it, and he's like, that's all because he punted the ball like that, and it was like, oh, who ever talks about the punter punting a football? So stuff like that, like I really I enjoyed that. So I don't know, I like Chris Collinsworth. Anyway, I like Chris Collinsworth, and I'm sticking to it. We're to the end of the show now. This one ran long. Apologize about that if you don't like long podcasts. Song of the week. So we're going to stick with Canada. We're going to stick with my favorite band. Tied for favorite band, Rush. I don't think I've done a Rush song, and I don't think I've done a Pearl Jam song either, and I purposely didn't do that because I don't want to shove Rush and Pearl Jam down your throat. But I have to do a Rush song this week, and I was thinking about what song I could do. Now, they have some popular songs. If you listen to classic rock stations, you're going to hear them all the time. So I wanted to do a song that really... It's one of their. I think it was off their second record. Fly By Night was the name of that record. Yeah, it was off that record. But the song is kind of weird, right? Because Rush kind of does some weird stuff. But this song also really like showpieces all three of their abilities with their instruments. And it's a trippy song too, and don't worry, it's not 20 minutes long. I was gonna do like Xanadu or something like that, or 2112 or something. But this song is by Tor and the Snow Dog. Yeah, like weird name song, right? But anyway, this song is I like it. And I want you guys to try it. I just want you to try it. I feel like I have to say that because this is not just your ordinary pop song or even rock song nowadays. There's different parts of the song, right? And you're going to hear Geddy on the bass. You're going to hear Neil Peart. Just listen to that guy drum, dude. That guy could just take two sticks and hit rocks with them, and it would sound fantastic. You're gonna hear him drumming on that song. It's fantastic. And then you're gonna hear Alex Lifeson do a killer solo in the mid. There's like this middle part where it actually sounds very Pink Floydish, which is not like them, but it has like a Pink Floydish feel, and it's trippy, dude. It's trippy, man. So if you're into like psychedelics and shit, maybe you want to do some of that and listen to this song. But I'm not telling you to do it. Just saying, if you're gonna do it, listen to the song while you do it. It's kind of like this trippy part, it's Pink Floyd-ish, but then Alex Lifeson gets into this killer solo, man. And I play guitar, so I'm all about solos. I'm all about awesome riffs. Anyway, this song is just I really like it. Now it might not be your cup of tea. It might not be your cup of tea, man. But if you like real instruments, if you like your musicians being actually talented, and if you like something that's just not some monotonous, verse, chorus, or whatever, refrain, whatever. It's just, this might be something you might be interested in, and maybe you haven't ever thought about it until now. So anyway, the song is by Tor, B-Y, then there's that little dash. I don't know what the name of that dash is because I'm terrible at English, but it's B-Y and then like a dash, and then T-O-R and the Snow Dog, right? That's the name of the song by the band Rush. And I'm telling you, if you go down a Rush rabbit hole too, like if you're into music, if you're a music person, and I'm saying not like you like listen to songs on the radio, but like you're into music, like you're into like fucking music, man. You're gonna want to check out Rush. I'm just telling you. So anyway, thank you very much for listening to this episode. I hope it lived up to your expectations. I personally was excited about it because I got to talk about a lot of my favorite things. And yeah, man. Have a great week, and don't fight the river, man. Later.